button and hit record. So today we're going to go through scroll frame optimization. But before we do that, because some of our loyal, long tenured folks know that I can get on rants and go deep. Does anybody have any specific questions, whether it's implementation wise, testing, a new offer that they're ready to launch, anything like that, an idea that they need for creative? Is there anything in particular that somebody wants to get feedback on from the group before we go into the live today? If you want to unmute, raise your hand, jump in, or throw it in the chat. If it seems like something that might require a lot of detail, we can just jam on it on Slack afterwards, and I can give you a couple quick nuggets. Is there anything in particular that anybody wants to touch on before we get into Big Five creative test today? Speaking of
I had something.
David,
so this is my first, pretty much my first time on the call. So if this is like off topic or whatever, let me know.
Word.
But I've been kind of specializing in TikTok ads in particular, and I've been really battling the lead quality. So I've been trying to like think of ways because we're getting leads and calls at like a pretty good cost, but they're just not really converting into sales. So I'm thinking of ways to kind of like properly indoctrinate people throughout the funnel, and increase that lead quality specifically on TikTok traffic. So
Cool.
That's kind of,
Yeah, I love this debate. Couple different ways that we can do that, and it very much applies to everybody. So I'll speak specific to you as well as to everyone, because lead quality is something that a lot of us probably face depending on offers or, brands or accounts or whoever we're working with. If you wouldn't mind me asking, could you give us like the vertical or something that, the lead gen strategy is in, what industry or something?
Yeah. So it's I can think of two campaigns that I'm running in particular, but the one that is, I guess, most pressing is a fitness coach. So she sells like a one-on-one private fitness coaching offer, high ticket. We're trying to target like career-driven women / female entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Cool. Good to give you that context. I'm going to just tell you guys straight up, like, this is exactly how you should solve lead quality. Who knows how they got into this group? A paid masterclass, right?
Yeah.
The best way to solve lead quality is with a tripwire, right? Like, I tell you guys exactly how I do it. And I don't hold it back either. Like, I talk sales with you guys. Like, I love our membership. I love our community, but also like, you guys a lot of people paid for a trial or the membership before they do the done with you training, right? So the best way to solve lead quality is with a $27, $47, or $97 offer before the high ticket. If you want to really solve the showed call rate issue that is systemic in digital marketing right now, like literally paid for trials, straight up, try to liquidate your ad spend as efficiently as possible. Your showed call ratios will skyrocket, just like they have for this very company. Skyrocket. Like, you showed up to your welcome call, right? Same exact way. It doesn't matter if we're in fitness, if we're selling sales training, if we're selling nutrition, like Paula. Like, I would do it in every single industry that's an info offer. I'd put a paid offer in front of my high ticket program every day of the week. And for some of you who were on, I don't know, it might have been like 6 weeks ago or whatever, you might remember my buddy Ethan Bentz. So Ethan and I have known each other for a long time. When they used to have their 40, now they do like CRO, it's all done with you, like CRO stuff. But anyways, like I think it was probably, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, when they launched 40/80 Scaling Academy, they basically taught scaling. It was with a $47 offer in front of the lead gen, right? So like, the best way to solve lead quality issue is like, I'm going to just be straight with you guys, get people to give you money. right?
So
Those are the people who are saying, hey, I want the thing, right? And everybody can do this. Like everybody can do it.
so like with a fitness offer, I could see a lot of ways you could split that. You could do like a challenge or like a trial or something like that. I
Yep.
also have another campaign that they sell video editing subscriptions, and primarily like business owners who are like pretty well established and they maybe have a team. They just want someone to edit all their videos. Could you think of like a low ticket offer for someone like that, or like a service like that, or is it just for info you're saying?
Yeah, 100%. So I would go like $27 offer. Here's how to edit your videos like Alex Hormozy. 5 steps,
Like
right?
a
So it's
SOP type of deal?
SOP, it could be like different editing frameworks, it could be like design styles, it could be like, you know, a lot of the stuff that we talk about even in this training is like how to segment the hook from the story, from ultimately the offer, right? And that's basically what we're going to go into today.
Mm,
Everybody like you could pull a piece out of the program and make it a 27, 47, $97 offer in front of it. You
yeah.
know, like I've always prescribed to the philosophy that I'm not a huge Gary Vee fan, but I'm a huge Gary Vee fan in the sense of one thing that he said that has stuck with me for like 7 years. I'm going to tell you exactly what I do and how I do it. And I'm going to bet that you can't do it like I can, straight up. Right. And so, like, I'll give you the exact how to on how to do the editing. And if you'd rather save time, like, then I'll do it for you. Right. So, whatever they do behind the scenes in the done for you video editing, they should make a master class on how coaches, consultants, agencies, marketers, ad buyers, designers, etc., how you can edit 100 videos in 1/3 the time with video editing masterclass. I don't know, I'm making it up.
Yeah.
And it's
No, I like that.
$27.
Cool.
You know, so before I like rant too much on that, I think that's a good one.
Cool.
Great
Cool. And
question, by the way.
I'm assuming in the master class there's ways to like figure out what that best tripwire product would be, like how to test for that.
Totally. The best thing, it's kind of like upsell strategy, right? So anybody who's in e-com, the best upsell is selling more of the thing that you just sold, right? And it's the same thing here with this. It's like strip it out. Think Russell Brunson 101 from day one, right? He's like, I'm going to give you the book. Then you're going to come to the conference. And then I'm going to sell you the mastermind, which is all still based on the book, right? So it's the process or the SOP of expert secrets, copywriting secrets, funnel building 101 is literally all in. I don't even remember what the name of the first book is now. I think is it copywriting secrets? I don't know.
.com
No,
secrets, I think.
.com secrets. Yeah. So like everything is in .com secrets, but then you go to the conference and you get the live delivery of .com secrets, right? It's kind of like a done with you sort of format. And then you pay for Inner Circle, which is 25 grand. Like that's the done with you / kind of done for you. Or if you really want Russell Brunson to build your funnel for you, it's going to cost you $1 million plus whatever his profit share, whatever the hell it is nowadays. Right. So I don't even know what that is. But it's like the SOP is .com secrets.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
So
All right.
yeah.
Cool. Thanks. I had
Absolutely.
a kind of a funny story the other day. I just moved to Asheville, North Carolina, like 2 weeks ago, and I was looking at trails on the All Trails app,
You found me?
and I'm looking at like reviews, and I see Will Perry in your
Let's
picture. I was
go.
like, no way. And then I looked at your
Yup.
profile and saw that you do one like every freaking day, it seems like. So that was kind of funny.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I'm a big all trails guy. I'm a big outdoorsman, hiker, etc. So yeah, we'll have to jam on some of that. I'll share with you in Slack some of my favorite places.
Hell yeah. Cool. Thanks,
Um,
man.
yeah, absolutely. Great to have you here. I'm gonna just rip through some fast, quick hitters in the chat, and then we'll jump in the SOP for today. So Brian asked, quick question for each scroll frame test, do you create a separate ad for each? Absolutely, we do. And we'll go into that deeper today. Jace asked, Jace Young, would you cap the offer at 97? Yes, I would cap the offer at 97. You're starting to enter sort of that mid-level high ticket, sort of range at that point, and people start questioning buying decisions over $100. Obviously the funnel economics play a factor there for you. Use the ad ROI formula. If 27, 47, or 97 is the best for you, that's in the dossier. Luke asked, when you execute tripwires, do you see more success with email lead gen first, then pitch the $27 offer, or straight to the $27 offer with no email? Honestly, I've seen both. We just go to straight sale on our stuff. Like, I've attempted opt-in. There's absolutely, and I can't remember the name of the actual funnel type. Blake Wyatt. I'd hit up Blake. Blake uses an opt-in to $27 offer, and he's in the group, he's in the mastermind, blah, blah, blah. They use an opt-in style. I've seen it work both ways. I think it really would be dependent upon the offer and what you're asking someone to do, right? So like if I'm opting in to get the offer, then the opt-in makes sense. But if it's just straight like, yo, it's 27, 47, 97 bucks, just like, not much need for the opt-in. Charles mentioned Harmon Brothers has a video script class that has their intro product. Yeah, you could have a look at that. Armias asked, what about quality issues for e-com skincare brand? Let's jam on that on Slack. So Armias, if you could follow up on Slack on that, definitely a more detailed response there. Sean asked, quick question, 7-day trial versus no free trial offer, but a 30-day money back guarantee for digital language learning app. I could be open to either one. The faster that you can get people into consuming the content, the question I would have is 7 days enough for them to experience it before the trial renews? You might even want to consider a 14-day, Sean. I know we've been jamming on that a little bit in Slack. Let's jam on that a little bit more. It really comes down again to the economics of the funnel specifically and what the conversion rate is from the 7-day trial into a paid trial. So that question's more important than whether the 7 or the 30 is better. Jace asked, one more thing I worry about is giving too much away at 97 or not enough. My strategy is always 10 times the value. So abundance mindset. Let's focus on 10 times the value versus giving too much away. Sean said AOV 80 to 100. That refers to the trial. We'll come back to that. Diana asked, I left a question on Slack. Can you answer it later on Slack? Absolutely. Glad to have you here, Diana. Let's jam. And if anybody has anything else, while we're going through today, definitely throw it in the chat. If it's something more detailed, just hit us up on Slack. Happy to dig into more detail there. Or if you want to throw a Loom video into the Loom request channel, it's something that's more detailed, etc. Throw that in there. Happy to get you follow up there as well. Sweet. Let's jam, because this is going to be a little bit of a longer one today. We're definitely going to go over an hour. I'm going to do my best to tighten it up, especially since we went through this one a few weeks ago, and it was a little bit of a newer delivery. So today we're going to go through scroll frame optimization. I'm going to explain what that is, how you can use it, and how to start implementing this into your 4-phase structure, how you can start using this day to day, week to week, etc. Some of the vets on the call today, they're already doing some of this. You could also ask questions in the group, find out how some other members, media buyers, agencies, etc., how they're implementing this SOP. Let me just, so if you're looking for this in your ads SOP guide, we're basically going to be picking up around slide 91. If you don't have version 2.2 yet, reach out to Nico, reach out to support. We can get you the new version. Version 2.3 will be coming out probably within like a week or two. So the idea behind scroll frame optimization is editing is easier than creating. This SOP came from my own pain years ago, where like as an agency, even if you're internal, like if you are spending a decent amount on ads, let's say $3,000 a day or more, the volume of creative that you need starts to become significant as you scale, right? And a lot of the reason why we struggle to scale is we don't have the creative output that is needed in order to scale. That could be from a variety of two reasons. Either A, internally at our brand, we're not willing to invest into the creative in order to scale, or B, we don't have the bandwidth in order to produce the creative that is needed in order to sustain scale. And so if you're spending accounts at, or I should say, whether you're internal or whether you're external, meaning ad buyer or agency versus in-house, like Medi, for example, in order to spend 5K, 10K, 20K a day on ads, our testing volume has to be significant. I'm talking hundreds of tests a week. And so what I'm going to go through today is exactly the testing volume that we operate at in order to sustain performance. I'm talking maintain ROAS and CPA at greater than $20,000 a day in spend. Like maintain CPA and ROAS consistently, like no bullshit, just straight up consistently. And so it goes back to this idea that editing is easier than creating. And I'm going to jump actually ahead to a slide. If nobody gets past your hook, guys, the remaining aspects of your ads, videos or not, are irrelevant, right? And so what happens is we kind of get stuck in this creative testing roller coaster, right? Whether we're internal or external, we're going to the creative team and we're like, yo, I need more creative. And creative team's like, yo, I just gave you like 10 new ads. What are you doing? Right? Like I just gave you 10 new ads and you're like, dude, they didn't work. I don't know what you want me to tell you. Like I spent $50. I spent my one-time CPA on all 10. I spent $500 and like performance sucks. Right? And so the question then becomes like, what do you do? Because we can't keep going back to the creative team requesting volume of creative. We can't keep going to the brand saying, yo, the creative that you gave me sucks. Like, I need more. Right. And then brand is like, dude, I'm pumping so much money into creative. What the fuck are you doing with how you're testing it and the direction that you're giving me? Right. And so like when you have all of these three pain points that are on all sides, it's like, yo, I know that people are scaling. Like, what are they doing that's different? Right. And so it comes back to this idea of why ad variable isolation is so incredibly imperative to literally everything that you do, right? And so we need to be able to identify the individual variables within our ads, right? For the vets, it's the hook, it's the headlines, it's the text overlays, it's the thumbnails, it's the first line of ad copy, it's our CTA, it's our offer, right? So we've got 8, 9 variables that we can consider, not including placements, audiences, etc., within the actual ad channel, right? So we need to be able to lean on ad variable isolation to say, this hook is what is driving the intent of my conversion. This story is what is driving the intent of my conversion. This positioning of the offer is what is driving the intent of my conversion. And I'll just tell you guys straight up, what works for us: super native messaging. I've shared my winning ads with you guys. Very media buyer marketer oriented language, promise driven hooks, demo style creatives, proof all the way through. So I know exactly at every level what type of ad, the positioning of the ad, the style of the messaging, and how I'm doing it that is literally driving conversions exactly to this very community. And that's what I want you guys to be able to come away with, is that we need to be able to go back to our creative teams, our clients, or whoever our supervisors are in-house. Maybe we're the supervisor, the founder of our brand. And we need to be able to say definitively, promise-driven style messaging with demo style videos with this angle of approach towards the offer is exactly what works for me. And I'm going to find as many ways to develop variations of that creative as possible so that I can maintain consistency like Will tells me that I should be able to do, right? But until we get to that level of clarity, there is literally no way to sustain performance at 3K a day, let alone 20K a day, or let alone to scale from 500 a day to 1,000 a day or 3,000 a day or whatever it is, right? So what I'm going to share with you guys is like a decision-making framework so that you can get more out of your ads. Hold on. Let me let somebody in here real quick, because optimizing the scroll frame is what's going to keep your winning ads going longer. And I'm going to explain what the scroll frame is. This is what you should be testing 80% of the time, day to day and week to week. If we don't understand, you know, for example, that X result with Y time style headlines are what drives sales and leads for us, we're going to keep testing all this random shit that we keep finding in ad library because everyone tells us that we need to spy on our competitor ads, right? But we have no idea if those ads are actually working or not. However, if you're clever, if you're creative and you can see the pattern, that's what I want to train you guys how to do. Is I want to train you how to see the pattern. And whether it's you auditing other brands, you know, for example's ads to get inspiration, or whether it's you coming up with your next ad concept, I want you to be able to spot the pattern between what is working for you specifically, which then becomes your winning ad formula. And then we optimize from your winning ad formula, for example, right? And that's how we're going to get consistency week to week, even post iOS. Yes, even post iOS. Like my guys, for the most part, they pretty much hit KPI 80% of the time with our internal team. If we're not, it's usually a creative production issue, which then means that the creative requests are not getting back to the creative team. And then I need to fix that. It's not necessarily needing to fix like, oh, I actually need to just produce more creative in general. But at every layer, we should be asking the question, well, what exactly does the creative need to look like and why, right? So that's where we're going with all this. Just wanted to set the pre-frame into why scroll frame optimization is absolutely the answer that you've been looking for. And then I'm going to hit on the big 5 creative tests that you can start using today and this week, etc., and moving forward in order to get more out of the ads that you are producing, because editing is easier than creating. And I know that I use Luke as an example a lot because Luke always winds up being in my first like 3 or 5 people that always shows up on the call. So I always see him first. Luke can definitively tell you, as well as a bunch of other people in the group, like Luke has basically one main video that he's gotten to survive for 3 months, maybe more at this point. I don't remember. Yeah, and it's based exactly on this process. So, so I always like to pick on Luke because for whatever reason, I've become to know the offer quite a lot. So scroll frame optimization is what's going to help us stick to the winning ad formula. We're going to make sure that we're using ad variable isolation, and I'm going to explain that in detail one more time. And we're going to isolate one element to test at every step of the way through our 4-phase structure. And I'm going to give you an SOP in order to do it. Let me actually just turn this full screen. I know some of you guys are throwing questions in the chat, so I'll try to come back to that. Whoops. All right, so what I want to use is like this as an ad, for example. This is a client that we run traffic for. When we audited this brand, at this point, it's probably like 5 or 6 months ago. I don't remember. The first thing that we always do is we identify the winning ads. And the reason that I want to identify the winning ads when I'm taking over an account is, again, editing is easier than creating. And I can piggyback off the learnings that someone else didn't know what to do with, right? There are things here that we should be able to spot and see as to why they worked and then recreate it, right? And so this is the fundamental foundation of sticking to the winning ad formula, testing 80-20 in order to be able to scale to whatever that next level of scale is. Doesn't matter what it is, it just needs to be stable. So let's say that this was the winning ad. So we've got 5 individual pieces of real estate here that you'll see that have arrows pointed to them, right? We also have the name of the brand. So that's one element. We've got the first line of ad copy. That's 2. We've got the image or the video. That's 3. We've got the headline on the video. That's 4. We've got the headline on the ad. That's 5. We've got the call to action. That's 6. We've got the first 3 seconds of the video. That's 7. And number 8 is the opening line of the video. So I've got 8 different things just within the first 1 second that I could consider changing in order to get performance, right? But this is how most people do it. Yo, creative team, I need more creative. Hook me up with more videos and images, and I'm going to throw them into Facebook, and I'm going to tell you which ones get the best ROAS, right? And then you just keep producing, because we can't spot the pattern. And what I'm saying is there's a pattern. We just have to train our eyes in order to be able to see it, and we need to test how we want to scale so that we can get the consistency that we're looking for. So this is exactly what we're going to do. So for example, this ad had 81 purchases, pretty solid ad, you know, spent like 6,500 bucks, generated 12 grand in sales. Let's just say for sake of conversation that this ad could probably be scaled further and the brand just didn't know how to scale it, or maybe they just launched it, you know, like 2 months ago and we inherited the account maybe like when this ad was somewhat new, right? So I'm like, okay, how can I learn from this thing? How do I keep this ad going? And that's what we're going to talk about. So that's what scroll frame optimization is, because there are hundreds of versions of this winning ad that you could create with proven elements. But if we don't know that this is a problem solution oriented headline, and if we don't know that this is a promise driven hook, and we don't know that this is an offer driven headline text overlay, how the fuck are we going to get consistency? We're not, right? And that's what we want to be able to identify. We want to be able to identify which of these pieces is going to move the needle more for me. How do I create more of it so that I can just get stable performance, right? So we need to be able to pick those things out, because this is the ad, right? We've got the hook, we've got the body, we've got the CTA, especially if we're talking video. And we need to be able to pull out one of those things, test for it, and then find out which thing we decided to test is going to make the difference. And that's what the Big 5 creative test is all about. The Big 5 creative test is, how do we prioritize the highest impact, easiest test to implement? Because editing's easier than creating. We want to beat our control. We want to move the needle. We want to keep our winning ads going. And we want to be able to identify different pockets of messaging within these broad audiences that we're targeting in order to just continue to produce leads and sales every day, right? The answer is not just developing more videos. Like David and Paula and Lisa and other David and Luke, you're on my first screen. You all could go continue to rip through video creation every day. It's exhausting. Like, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time, effort, energy, resources, scripting, brain power, like creativity. Ain't nobody got time for that, right? Especially unless we're a $2,500 million brand and we've got a 5-10 person creative team. We're like, we can just do this every day. And we're just ripping out scripts every day and edits and variations and all the things. Like, don't have time for that. So what we're going to touch on is the Big 5 creative test. Highest impact test that you could run, video thumbnail. I have a lot of people that try, maybe that's not the best way to put it. I have a lot of members in this group, new people that come into the group, who do not believe how much the video thumbnail impacts performance. My response is, just ask Luke. Impact test number 2, text overlay headline on the winning ad. High impact test number 3, testing the hook on winning ads. There are 3 different ways that you can split out the hook. High impact test number 4, design variations of these ads. Some of you guys probably see the design variations on my ads. They're all rooted around the same concept. Number 5, optimizing the avatar, which is the most difficult because it's dependent on bandwidth. It's dependent on whether you can actually get creators or actors, whatever you want to call them, to be able to optimize the avatar. But let's say that you get a winning video script and you market to, you know, let's actually use Paula as an example. Paula has like a health nutrition offer that, you know, she markets to females. So like you could have a younger female avatar, let's say Black female. You could have an older Black female avatar. We could have a younger white Asian avatar. We could have an older Latin female avatar, right? All of those people are going to resonate with that avatar differently. Doesn't mean that the messaging doesn't work. Doesn't mean that the script doesn't work, right? So once you find that script, once you find the hooks, the messaging, the conversion elements, etc., that drive leads and sales like you're looking for, optimizing your avatar is one of the biggest needle movers that you can make that is actually super easy to execute on. It just takes having the avatars, the creators, etc., in order to then execute the script. And then once you carry that back through all these big 5 creative tests, your creative output is going to be pretty significant in order to actually move into your testing. So that's the big 5. The big 5 is thumbnails on your winning ads, text overlay, aka headlines on those winning ads, the hooks of your winning ads, design variations of your winning ads. Number 5, avatars of your winning ads. So we're actually going to look at 3 examples as well. These are not the examples. I'm actually going to play some videos for you. So this is an example of how to optimize a winning ad concept through the thumbnail. All of these were phase 1 tests that we then pulled into a phase 2 creative testing environment on the winning ad. We've been running this offer, I don't know, maybe 6-7 months at this point. We're still using ad 1001 and I'm spending 20 grand a day. I fucking shit you not. So like, this is how important this is. We want to create 5 to 10 variants that we can test in phase 1, but we want to be able to identify which element are we testing for. In this case, it's the thumbnail, right? So I want to test the thumbnail in phase 1. I want to run 10 tests. I want to find the best 1 or 2. I want to validate them in phase 2. I'm going to scale the winner. You can take stills from your videos. You can go as far as finding stock images and pulling those back into your phase 1, and then going back to all of your winning videos and revitalizing those with these new thumbnails. Then you can carry it a step further, put text or text overlay headlines on those now new winning thumbnails, run them back through phase 1, run 10 of them, find the best 2 or 3, validate them in phase 2, keep the winning ad going longer, scale it in phase 4. So I'm going to show you a specific example. Some of you guys who especially have been around for a while who might remember this ad. This was an ad, a video ad that was basically like a proof ad where we showed like the 4-phase testing structure. This ad started with no headline bar, with no emoji, with no arrow, and it evolved directly into this version that we then scaled in phase 4. And some of you might remember, some of you have actually come into this program based on this hook and this messaging of this creative testing method slaps. I'm still running it. I wrote it like 4 or 5 months ago, and I found it in phase 1, right? So this is, if you might remember, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes ago when I said, I use marketer-driven language in my hook and ad copy. This is how I found it. I found it in phase 1 because my CTRs continued to be, my engagement continued to be super high around this style of messaging. So same thing here as well, right? Isolate the text overlay. This is just an example of how we tested. We had a winning video. Then we went back into phase 1. We wrote 10 headlines for the video, found the best 2 or 3, moved them into phase 2, found the winner, scaled the winner. And so this is how you fundamentally can understand a messaging concept that continues to drive sales for you. And the reason that I know it is I'm still using it today. I'm still using this hook. Some of you guys have even come in today with this hook, like straight up. Like I wrote this hook. I don't even remember. Like this is probably, what month are we in? November, August, maybe July, I think is when I wrote that hook in particular. So that hook is still going. That's how important it is to have the clarity around your messaging. And so how you would run this is we're going to pop these still images into Canva. We're going to literally throw the headline bar on top of the video. We're going to run it in phase one. And then we can go develop 5, 10 different design variations of this text overlay style as well. You could have a black background, a red background, a purple background, a blue background, etc. One more thing that I want to touch on, and then we're going to look at a live example, is I want you guys to think of this like a magazine cover, right? So I've got this, I have a book in front of me. I don't know if anybody's read this book. This is a book that I'm getting ready to read. Let's say that this was a magazine, right? This headline on this book says, 13 fatal errors managers make and how you can avoid them. Let's say that this was shitting. Let's say that this was sitting in the what do they call it, like the at the grocery store where they have all the magazines sitting on the rack, right? What's the first thing you do? You read the headlines on the magazine to decide if you're going to pick up the magazine, right? And that's exactly what this is. Think of a magazine, or think of a newspaper, the New York Times. The biggest story is always on the first page above the fold. So you fold the newspaper in half, it's above the fold. And the headline is the biggest piece of real estate that you see on the newspaper, right? So it might say something like, Joe Biden wins the election, right? That is what is going to incentivize someone to read the article, right? Or they get the idea of exactly what the offer is. The offer is the information about how Joe Biden won the election, right? Irrelevant of the fact that Joe Biden won the election, the idea is that the headline describes exactly what the offer is, and it incentivizes me to consume the rest of the content. Facebook ad, TikTok ad. The headline incentivizes me to consume the rest of the content. The hook incentivizes me to consume the rest of the content, right? That's why the scroll frame is so important, because you have 1 second to capture the attention and the interest of who you are targeting through your messaging in order to get them to click on the image ad or watch the video. But unless we know how to isolate those tests, we're not going to know which headline or any one of these examples is fundamentally getting to the emotional core of the person who's buying. So that's the argument per se. That's the marketing argument, is that we need to think of this. We need to think of our ad like the cover of a magazine, and we need to think of our ad like the front cover of the New York Times or a newspaper. And nobody's going to read the newspaper if the headline sucks, right? If we literally, if let's say the New York Times produced 10 different headlines and they literally put the 10 different versions of the New York Times at the grocery store, I bet you that they would be able to report how much better sales were of the newspaper based on the headline in which that the person saw when they decided to choose between the 10, right? That's why it's so important. So that's high impact test number 2, isolate the text overlay on your creative. Now, this is where it starts to get a little bit more complex, because there are 3 layers in which that you can test for your hook. You've got the ad copy, which is also the hook. The first line of ad copy is the hook, because the person sees the content, aka the thumbnail, and that incentivizes them to read your content. So it goes thumbnail, ad copy, headline, click, right? So that is the order of operations in which that someone consumes the content. I want you guys to watch your behavior now as you're scrolling through TikTok and Facebook, right? I see the image or the video, then I read the ad copy, then I read the headline, then I click the button. The majority of the time, right? There's outliers, of course, but the majority of the time. So the second layer in which that we have the hook is technically the text overlay as part of the hook as well, because it is the initial sort of attention grabbing element. The second part of the hook is going to be the first sound or audio that we hear and the first scene that we see, right? So the hook is really comprised of 3 things. It's the text overlay, it's the initial opener, and it's the motion of the video. So those are the 3 core pieces of the actual hook within your ad specifically. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how we've generated tens of thousands of leads for this very offer with basically one ad concept. And I've been keeping it going for like 13 months, or I should say, I can't take credit for that one. Our team has kept this concept going for 13 months. So we're going to watch the videos. For those of you who have seen these before, I apologize, but it's a good refresher. Bear with me one sec as I exit my screen. Everybody still with me so far? A couple of head nods would be good from what I can see. Dope, cool. All right, so David, David Hobdell, since you're top left for me, you can see this ad? Just a thumbs up.
Yep.
Cool. All right, perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play these 3 ads, and we're just going to watch them real quick. It's going to take like 2 to 3 minutes, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So this first video that you see, this is the exact video that we inherited this ad account with. This is the exact video. Oh, wait. Can you hear my audio, or is it off because of my headphones? All right.
Yeah, audio's off.
Dope. Cool riff, right? Just guy kind of playing some chill guitar. Goes into the VSL. This is our client. His name's Spencer. You get the idea. Fucking talking head video. No offense to Spencer, and hopefully he never sees this. Kind of boring, right? Good script though, right? This drives a shit ton of sales, by the way. So let's look at version number 2. We've got like so many of these. I'm a sucker for this kind of guitar personally. Like, this is my jam. Same VSL. Same VSL.
A lot of people think.
Let's watch the 3rd version.
The sort of holy grail.
Same VSL. You guys, look how much, I mean, decent amount. Look how much social proof is on all of these ads. This isn't even like the most that we have on some of them. All of these ads are scaling. Like all of these ads are in phase 4, right? So like, depending on when I took these screenshots, which it's been a while, some versions of the ads are still in phase 4, other ones have been killed. But how many variations could you guys create on this concept by optimizing the hook on this ad? A shit ton, right? Because I'm going to bring another concept in here real quick. For my vets, again, message-driven targeting, right? So I've got 3 different styles of guitar on the opener of this video, right? I've got acoustic on the 3rd version. I've got like a blues rocky version on version number 2. And then I guess you could kind of call it like a jazz version on version number 1, right? So at its core root, this program sells mastery guitar for intermediate level guitar players, just like Elite Media Buyers sells mastery level creative testing to intermediate level marketers, right? And advanced level marketers. And so, however, acoustic, jazz, and blues level guitar are going to resonate emotionally with me differently based on the style that I want to learn how to play, right? That doesn't mean the rest of the video and the script is trash, right? It's just that like, hey, I like country, I like metal, I like blues rock, I like jazz, right? Like that hook is what is going to capture the attention and incentivize this person to do the first action, which is get the free training. And then the second step is to file the application and then book the call for the high ticket offer, right? To actually get the coaching to break through the intermediate level plateau on guitar, right? So that's how you're going to use message-driven targeting through your hook creation. That doesn't mean that this ad, even though it might fatigue at some point, doesn't mean it's a bad ad. Doesn't mean that there are things that are not working within this ad. And it doesn't mean that we have to scrap the whole thing, right? Because most people scrap the whole thing, right? Like at least before maybe creative testing mastery and masterclass and all the things. And I used to do this, right? to be like, yo, there's no way I can get enough video to Mr. or Mrs. Client, you know, there's no way I can sustain performance at 10K a day unless you can keep up with me in production.
Okay.
There's no way, right? Until I learned how to optimize the hook. And then I was like, oh, yo, I can do so many different versions of this, right? Like I actually don't need another video. Like, yes, I still need new videos, but like, I don't need them as much as I think that I do. And so here's just, again, more proof that like, you don't need it. This is what you do need. We need to be able to identify how to capture attention more efficiently and how to split test and then get the clarity in order to keep it rolling. So that's high impact test number 3. Again, it's a little bit more complex, but again, easy to execute. It involves a little bit more work, right? Maybe a little video editing, especially if it's on the video side. But then you've got 3 layers in which that you can test for, right? So I just showed you guys like just the actual like opening sound element, right? So if this was let's say this was a talking head video, I'll show you maybe I'll show you guys 3 hooks that we just recreated for a concept that we just launched, not today, but I'll show you at another time. I basically just recorded 3 new opening hooks for a winning video that we're using, and we're going to rerun it back through the system, right? But I didn't change. It's actually a 3-minute VSL as an ad. And we've generated probably like 30 leads on it in the last 2 days, like maybe 3 days. I don't know, kind of lost track. But like, I'm going to optimize the hook on that creative, right? I'm just going to make some changes to how I'm capturing attention and what might be important to the intermediate or advanced level ad buyer. Doesn't mean that the rest of the script is trash, right? So that's these 3 examples in particular. So I'm just going to close these out, jump back to the slides.
Very nice.
Well, we're doing pretty decent on time.
Who's that for?
So that's high impact test number 3.
I mean, you can try it tonight. See if it
Bear with
actually
me one
works.
second. I'm picking up a little
And then we can get another one. But I just got one.
audio from the background. Not quite sure who that is. Might be Tyler or Nassim, not 100% sure. Cool. So high impact test number 4. Let me just regain my footing here for a second. Cool. Here's high impact test number 4. These are going to be, again, like a little bit more complex. It's going to be dependent upon what our creative capabilities are internally. So design variations, especially after we understand the style of headlines like X result in Y time, problem solution, promise, or offer driven headlines, which for the new guys in the group and gals, there's a framework for hooks and headline types within Masterclass. There's a whole video breakdown on it. It's also in the guide. So I'm just going to jump on the assumption that like we all now know what that means. Once we understand, hey, this is the style of messaging that drives leads for us. For us, it is promise offer driven hooks and headlines. That is what drives the majority of our results. We can then move into design variations or concepts of those ads. As an example, if you guys remember back to this example, this has probably gone through, and maybe Alfie could throw this in the chat because Alfie's on the call. Alfie's on our team and runs our ads with us. I think we maybe generated like 3 or 4 variations of this that we then eventually moved on from. Probably before we like found a new concept, and then we actually carried this into a static image concept. And then we developed multiple iterations of the image concept, and then we carried that back into a video concept. So like this general theme has been carrying on for probably 5 months or so, roughly. I could be off with my timing, but it's probably not far off. Design variations, right? So like, I'll just give you simple. If anybody out here is a designer, has worked, with creative teams, or who has most importantly studied color theory, colors resonate with different people based on different emotions and in different ways. And so design variations will also resonate with different people emotionally in different ways. again, that doesn't mean that your promise offer driven angle of attack is no longer working. It just means that you need to find a different way to optimize for attention. And that is why scroll frame optimization is the solution, because we want to keep the core elements that are driving leads and sales for us. So this is probably, like, without you guys knowing it, this is probably the most common thing that most people have done with design variations, but we want to take it a step further, and we want to maintain the hooks, the headlines, the messaging, those elements that we've proven through our phased, testing structure that we've now gained clarity on, because that clarity is going to produce confidence. We're like, yo, I know exactly this is what works. Like, and that confidence is what's going to produce the consistency that we're looking for. So that's high impact test number 4. Again, you guys can start implementing this stuff right after our call today. And if you did, I would start with high impact test number 1 and number 2. Those are going to be the easiest for you to pull off. Without a designer, you can get stuff live by tomorrow morning. And even if you continue to focus on that, you can launch 100 creative tests in no time at all, for $2 to $3 each. So going into number 5 now, this was the one that I was referring to when I was kind of referencing it with Paula, is we can isolate our avatar, right? So if we now have a proven offer, obviously we need to get to the point of a proven offer. We're producing leads, we're producing sales, etc. I can start isolating my avatar and not straying away from my messaging, right? If clearing brain fog is what is driving sales for me, that's not going away. If I'm struggling to drive sales in my business, that desired result is not going away. What needs to change is the way that we approach the desired result that the prospect wants, right? Leads or sales doesn't matter. Internal, external, in terms of ad buyer agency, in-house brand, whatever, doesn't matter. We need to be able to, this is why, if we think big money advertising, I'm talking like sponsorships and stuff. Why do brands pick specific like influencers, athletes, actors, etc., to rep their products, right? Because they're trying to get that avatar that resonates with their core buyer to basically influence someone into the purchase, right? Or into the conversion. And also a lot of times they'll find ways to, they have different, what's the word I'm looking for again? They'll have different spokespeople for different, genders, ethnicities, etc. But that doesn't mean that they're changing the fundamental core of their messaging as a brand. It just means that, for example, black male resonates with black male audience and white female resonates with white female audience. That doesn't mean that we fundamentally change our messaging, right? Like if like, again, I'll just use an easy one. If driving more sales for our business is what we're interested in, that interest doesn't go away. Without being derogatory here, obviously, if we're male or female, white or black, Asian, Latin, etc., that desired result doesn't change, right? That is the core of our messaging. So then when we have this promise offer driven style messaging, we're hitting directly on the desire that the prospect wants. And that's why it's so important. And it also will give you significant testing volume. The idea here is, behind the big 5 creative tests, is I want you guys to have an easy way, a faster way, a more efficient way to produce the testing volume that you need, because you've all shared with me that your desire is scale, right? Everyone here's desire is scale. I'm showing you a new way to get the scale that you're looking for, right? And it's going to come through testing volume. And at another layer, it's going to come through the clarity that you find through your testing volume. And then at another layer, it's going to come through the confidence that you get from your testing volume. And that's how you're going to be elite. That's how you're going to be an elite media buyer, is having that clarity that you're looking for, to have the balls to spend 10 or 20 grand a day, to then sustain performance at 10 or 20 grand a day, that makes you look like a stud, right? But it comes from the process, it comes from the testing volume, it comes from being able to have the clarity behind what you are actually testing to get the results that we all crave to have. So that's the big 5 creative tests. Here's just sort of another example, a more detailed example of how you could isolate the avatar. This is a winning ad concept, for example, that could very easily, be isolated into dozens of tests just on the avatar side. Then when we go layer in the hook, then when we go layer in the text overlays, we're now optimizing for attention within our creative. And now we're mastering our creative testing. So, hopefully that is resonating with you guys. And I see that I've got a lot of questions, and I'm going to do my best to go through all of those. If some of them require, a bit more detail, again, like we can jam on this on Slack. You can follow up, shoot a limb video, etc. So let me just rip through these, and then if anybody wants to unmute as well, we can definitely do that. But I'm gonna try to do these in rapid fire, so that way if anybody's got a live question, you guys know me, I could answer the live question for 10 or 15 minutes. So Joe says, what's the scroll frame exactly? Joe, I'm gonna assume from that now you've definitely got it. David said, forgot the exact metric KPI, but basically how well you stop the scroll of people watching the ad. That is the thumb stop rate or the scroll stop rate, or effectively the hook rate. How you measure that is 3-second video views divided by impressions. We also like to look at it divided by video plays as well. An ideal hook rate is about 30%. So if you can get a 30% hook rate on your creative, pretty darn good. I'd say that's like a B+. We absolutely see stuff that's 40, 50%. Better the hook, the lower your CPC typically will be, the higher your click-through rate typically will be, the higher your conversion rate typically will be. As we know, that all flows downhill. Okay, actually, David threw that in. Cool. True. Oh yeah. So Afi said, yeah, it's true. Probably had 4 or 5, maybe 3, 5 variations on that example that I shared with you. Ermias said, I struggle with understanding how thumbnail can be so important, because don't all videos autoplay? So they have a split second to read what we have on there, right? Am I missing something? Yes, but that split second is the most important part, right? So some of you guys might remember, I think this was probably an example that was used pretty often, like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, that the average attention span of a human was less than a goldfish, which is 8 seconds. If my memory serves me right, and I don't have the exact data on this, so bear with me, I believe that attention span has been cut to 3 seconds or less. And the argument would be that I don't have data on this, and it probably exists. TikTok is fundamentally changing the way that we consume content. And it's like this, boom, 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 fast. And why? Because the dopamine hit is so quick when I'm flipping through TikTok, right? And people flip through Facebook the same exact way. So it's literally like scroll, 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 scroll. Tinder did the same thing, right? We make a decision when we swipe left, right, up, down, whatever it is, within a half a second or less, on whether we're interested in what's front of our face. Doesn't matter if it's a dating app or whether it's a video that's going to sell us something. So Ermias, super important. Your mind subconsciously makes a decision of yes or no before you probably realize it. And that's what scroll frame optimization is all about.
Can I add to that question? This is Ermias.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah, so I guess if I'm thinking about the thumbnail, it's what's shown before the video has a chance to load, right? It's like a split second. So I guess what I'm asking is, do they even have time to read what we write on there, or are we more focused on making, something that's like read and highly visible, or are you actually saying you should optimize the text that's on
Yeah.
there. That's why I mentioned autoplay.
Yep. I'm gonna throw this in a different direction. Hey, Alfie, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I've been listening to that way and kind of jumping on it. Like, there's so many things that I could say on it. I would say as like a pre-roll because it just test it because it makes such a huge difference. Like, crazy difference. It's got to the point now where on accounts I'll have a thumbnail that's not even taken from the specific video. Like, I'll manually upload it because it's so effective. But in answer to the question, like the image and the overlay, like they're both important. And that initial frame that someone starts consuming the ad and then goes through the funneling, it's like, it's so important. Just please test it. It's like so important. So both really in answer to the question, but
Yeah,
particular
and the
placement
proof that I'll
work
give
that's
you on that as well is one of the accounts that I've referenced today at 25K a day is one that Alfie's running.
yeah.
So like, I wouldn't bullshit you guys. Like, everything that I share with you has been proven. So yeah, Ermias, like, it can make a massive difference. Massive difference.
Gotcha. I'll test it out.
Yeah, 100%. Alfie also mentioned in the chat, this applies to TikTok also 100%. Like, we optimize the hooks the most, including the text overlay, on TikTok. Luke, I'll catch up with you later, no worries. Brian asked, should you test different scroll frames across different audiences or keep the control? First part of that question, yes, because we want to obviously have our proven audience, like 10% of buyers in phase 1 and phase 2. So yes. And then because we're, hopefully we've isolated those variables in phase 3 and phase 4 through audiences. When we go to scale it, we'll have that clarity as well, with our additional audience opportunities. So then you also mentioned like target hip hop enthusiasts with a black male avatar versus black male against broad audience control. It may be a good creative, but just test it against the wrong audience. Definitely a great individual situation. In that scenario, of course, going to be a little bit more like account / audience / offer / brand specific. If you've trained the pixel properly, broad should work, and broad knows that your audience is black male, right? And that's why message-driven targeting is so important, right? Is that your creative is what is calling out people in your huge broad audiences, right? So that's why the messaging is so important. That's why we need to be able to isolate those. David said, got a roll. Whole roasted chicken. You got it. No worries. Thumb stop rate. 2 questions. Asks Sean, if phase 1 testing is close to 5 to 6%, what do you I think you were saying, what do you recommend? 5% is the minimum that I prefer to see for ecom, because that means most likely when you go to phase 2, aka conversion testing, I like to look at this in the rule of thirds. You're probably going to be in the 1 to 1.5% range with your creative tests, right? That's going to put you right on KPI most of the time. So a 5 to 6% CTR in phase 1 is a good baseline metric. If you're hitting 10%, and some of you guys have absolutely hit 10%, this is where you're looking at the potential of click-through rates north of 1.5%. And then your second part of the question was going back to phase 1 and testing another variable. Exactly. So if you implement your big 5 creative tests and you're isolating the hook and then the text overlay and then the thumbnail, we're just going to keep rolling through those tests, finding the winners, moving them to phase 2, working to validate, scaling the winners from phase 2. Cool. Alfie dropped a note for some of you guys in there. Second question, Sean. Can we test, I guess Alfie, you probably answered this, I guess. Can we test thumbnail on video and headline on thumbnail in the same testing? Thumbnail on video and headline on thumbnail. since they're both technically the thumbnail, two different things. You can do both. You want to be able to isolate the thumbnail and the headline on the thumbnail, because like Alfie mentioned, if you've got different thumbnails that drive that performance, and you also have all these other headlines, now you can combine your winning elements together and launch a whole nother set of tests, right? Which means a whole nother possibility of a scaling ad, regardless of whether we're using single ad scaling, CBO scaling, ABO scaling, whatever. We've got multiple versions of the same ad. Joe said, going to follow with this closely. Awesome. Ermias, you asked a follow-up question, and then Javier, I'll touch on yours as well. Do you recommend changing all of your audiences to broad to start the training in Pixel and then focus on creative alone? Or is there a transition plan that you use? The fundamental root of the philosophy, and this is in the deck as well, I don't remember where it is. It's like somewhere later on. The idea is test the way that you want to scale. So we have to set ourselves up for scaling as well, which means no niche audiences. We want to test on preferably broad interest first, then sort of broad, aka open or no targeting. So like male 35 plus, no interest, no lookalikes, etc. And then 10% of your buyers list specific to the product in which that you're promoting, right? Also broad, right? So test the way that we want to scale, because those audiences are super large to sustain $500, $1,000 a day or more at the ad set level when we want to scale them. So super important. I would suggest at a minimum, Ermias, if you have winning ads in your ad account right now, I would launch a phase 3 campaign, and I would go launch, I'm just going to make up an offer on the spot. Let's say that it's a weight loss supplement, a fitness supplement. I'm going to go launch the physical fitness interest, which is like 100 million plus. I'm then also going to launch a physical fitness stack, strength training, CrossFit, weight loss, all that stuff together. That's a broad interest stack and a broad interest specifically. I'm going to validate whether that is a scalable audience. Once I validate it based on my kill points, which is right here, and then I'm then going to scale it. Once it scales, then you can move it back into phase 1 and phase 2. There's a lot more details in between all that, but you've now validated that audience. That is now an audience that you can test against in phase 2 because you've isolated that variable. Like I said, there's more details to that. It's not as clear cut and dry of what I've just described, but that's the 80%. Javier asked, do you group creatives with different headlines in the same ad set when you move to phase 2, or do you create a separate ad set for each variation? Simple answer, separate ad set. That's called pocket theory with ad variable isolation. Facebook will deliver the reach and the impressions based on the daily budget that you give it and limit the reach on one of the other variables. So if you truly want to test both headlines, we've got to split those into different ad sets. Brian also asked, I know you said you would touch on it, but there are so many freaking tests going on. How do you stay organized with the ad ID? Let me see if I've got an example of this. Great question, by the way. I think I have this. Let me just do this. I'll just kind of start typing on my own document. So 1001 is your image. Capital A is your headline. Lowercase a is your hook and your ad copy. So this is what the ad looks like. So if you're using UTMs, this is how you keep it organized. So every step of the way, Alfie, for example, likes to label his like this. So every step of the way, okay, this is my winning image. This is my winning headline. This is my winning hook and ad copy. And then as you're carrying that through your testing, when you're moving on to the next version of your ad copy, we're isolating the hook. Now this is going to be AB, right? So now we know, okay, I'm testing my ad copy hook. Now the next time I'm testing my ad copy hook, this is AC. And then when I'm testing my headline, This is going to become B and AA, because now I'm going to go back to my winning ad copy. So, and the next way that you do that is we're going to save all of our winning ads in a staging campaign. Right? So as long as I put my creative, or I put my naming conventions in place, whoops, as long as I put my naming conventions in place when I'm setting up my ads, I'm now moving my winners to staging. I'm then copy the ad ID. And every time that I get a sale, it's pulling it directly from the naming convention. And the next time that I go launch a test, I'm just going to iterate off of my naming convention. So Brian, there might be a little bit more to that. If you want to, if you have follow-up questions, we can jam in Slack. Thank you, Alfie. Pleasure to have you, my friend. And then last question was from Paula. What would be a healthy budget distribution amount in all phases to keep profitable scaling on an account? I'll answer that two ways. If I was starting an account, let's say I'm taking over an account, or maybe at like they have no data at all. I'm starting at $200 a day in phase 2 directly. That's it. If I can only get the client to agree to a budget, I'm not talking, I don't go to the client and I don't say, what's your budget? I say, can you do $200 a day in creative testing? Like, even still to this day, I don't talk budgets with clients. The only thing that, because you know as well, everybody knows as well as I do, this isn't just for Paula. Client will always say, if you're getting the results, I'll spend whatever you want me to spend, right? So like chicken or the egg, which one is it? Mr. Mrs. Client, whoever you are, can you do $200 a day in testing? Because we all now have a process and a system that we can lean on, because once we find the winners, I'm going back to Paula and I'm like, hey, Paula, can I get a budget approval to go to 500 a day? Well, yes, you can, Paula. You're getting the results that you're looking for. Of course, I'm willing to spend $500 a day. And then I go find more winners and I'm like, hey, Mrs. Client, can I get a budget approval to go to 750 a day? Of course you can. Of course you can go to 750 a day, right? Then what it will force them to do is it'll force them to go find the money, which is my favorite part of the conversation. There's credit cards, there's Clearco, there's Brex, there's plenty of ways to get the financing or the funding or et cetera. If we're just looking for capital for ad spend, there's cheaper ways, there's more expensive ways. We could do a whole training on just that. But at the beginning, I'm starting at 200 a day. Flip side of that, let's say that I'm scaling. Let's say that I'm at, I'll just use like lower easy numbers. Let's say I'm at $1,000 a day. $1,000 a day, I'm still looking for about $200 a day in creative testing. So phase 2, and that will allow me to test 4 creatives at a time, right? So I can, if my CPA is $50, I can launch 4 phase 2 ad sets at one time. I'm going to kill those ad sets at my one-time CPA kill point. If I have a lower CPA, like I'm running a CPL account, like cost per lead, maybe I can run 4 tests at 25 a day, but I'm still spending $200 a day, right? But I probably don't need as much volume because a lead is easier to get than a sale. And so, so that's what I'm looking at there. So we're looking at about 20% of daily budget is allocated towards creative testing. And then at this point, 80% is on scaling. You might have some stuff week to week that's in phase 3, kind of irrelevant. If we're focused on scaling, we're basically just phase 1, phase 2, phase 4. You guys should be able to implement single ad scaling with this, even ABO scaling with this, without even adding additional audiences. Once you have the ability of adding additional audiences, we're going back to client or internal supervisor and we're saying, hey, can I get approval to increase budget by 20%? I want to go add 4 audience tests, at $50 a day, right? So again, like it's 80-20 in the beginning, creative testing, scaling. At that point, I'm going about it with budget approval to get into phase 3, which is audience testing for more phase 4. And then as we know, phase 1 is pretty minimal. I mean, we're spending like $100 a week. Like it's not a lot. It's typically 5% or less of the total budget. So I know that 80 plus 20 plus 5 is 105, but like you get the general overall idea, because phase ones aren't on all the time. You know, you might, you know, even if you're launching, like we like to launch anywhere from like 5 to 10 phase one, like ad sets per week. So anywhere from 50 to 100 variants per week. You know, if I'm only spending $3 per test, I'm still only spending like $300-400 tops. Right. So like that's only $1,200 in an actual 30-day time frame. And that could just be for an account that's somewhere between, you know, $2 and $5 grand a day, you know, kind of thing. In order to beat the control, in order to sustain performance. So yeah, that's how I would approach that. This piece, the 80-20 and starting at 200 a day. I always like to explain it like, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Client, I can't even get data for you for less than 200 a day. Like, is time more important to you or is money more important to you? You know, if you want this information fast, I need it faster. I need to be able to I need to be able to spend at least 200 a day. That doesn't mean I'm going to spend $6 grand. It might mean that I'll spend 200 a day for 3 or 4 days. I'll kill it. You and I'll talk for a day or two, and then we'll launch the next round the following Monday, for example. And you could still, you know, spend 4 or 5K, you know, if we're working on a tighter budget. So I've got about 5 more minutes on my side before I need to wrap. So I'm happy to stick around and answer any questions. If anybody else has anything else, whether that's in the chat or if somebody has a live question. Does anybody want to jump in? If not, it's totally okay. If you guys want to start, okay, there was one in the chat. If you guys want to start jumping off too, that's totally okay as well. So Tay, did you want to, you're welcome, Nicole. Love having you as always. Tell Tom I said what's up. And Tay, did you want to ask your question live or just throw it in the chat? If you can hear me. Chat. Okay, cool. My pleasure, Javier. Justin asked, so Tay, while you're throwing that in, I'm going to answer Justin's question. Perfect, Ermias, thank you. Justin said, is it possible to scale with just many $50 a day ad sets? Not in ecom. Yeah, not in ecom. Your budget is really spread too thin. At that point, I would rather have you guys, you know, double down on what is actually working. We should be putting more budget behind fewer campaigns and ad sets. What about info products? There's literally no reason to spend behind you know, $50 a day ad sets. Like you might as well double down, because those ad sets are going to hit learning limited. I guess that's the better answer. And as you hit learning limited, then your performance starts to decline. So then you have a budget allocation issue. Those ad sets need budget in order to think of it like the wood to your fire. Those ad sets need budget to continue to get the results that you're asking it to get. So, so yeah, hopefully that helps. So Tay said, for an affiliate marketer in phase one traffic campaign, what do you recommend the CTR to be to move on to the conversion? You're welcome, Justin. And we can jam on that more as well if you want more clarity on that. To move on to a conversion campaign from phase one. Tay, quick question. Is this is this ecom or lead gen? Ecom, cool. Same thing. You know, I'm still looking for north of 5%. A lot of affiliate ecom guys tend to get high CTRs because the copy has a tendency to be a little bit more clickbaity. So still, you know, north of 5%. What you'll probably want to do is eventually establish a new benchmark for yourself. Let's say, for example, 7%, because you know that once you start doing conversion testing, you know, your average might be 2% click-through rate, you know, on conversion ads, for example. So you'll want to continue to raise the benchmark in your phase ones, because that's what's also going to allow you to beat your controls. When you start really hitting on the messaging, you're going to see it really fast, and you're going to see it in phase one, and you're going to see it in phase two. You want to be able to spot that stuff, right away. Diane had a question. This is probably the last one I'll be able to touch on today. And then if you guys have more, we can definitely jam in Slack. So Diana asked, so you are testing ads at low budgets, and then you scale the winning ads into higher cost ads using the CPA times 50 divided by 7 formula for budget. Simply, yes. So phase one is basically like $2 to $3 tests. We find the winners, we move them to phase two. Phase two is typically like early on a one-time CPA kill point. So if I don't have one lead or one sale by $50 in spend, for example, I'm killing that creative test and I'm moving on to the next creative test. Higher CPA accounts, we typically stretch that out to 2 to 3 times CPA to get the conversion. Then once we validated it in phase two, we're looking for a minimum of 10 conversions in phase two. That's our initial definition of a winning ad. And then we can scale that in a variety of different ways in phase four. Not all of the 5 scaling strategies work at all times in all accounts, but those are also prioritized in terms of easiest to execute. So yeah, Diana, if you want to, if you have any sort of follow-ups on that, we could definitely jam on that more in Slack for sure. Appreciate your question. So Tay said, and then Justin will be the last one. I appreciate your guys' engagement today. It's been awesome, by the way. So Tay said, regarding the CTR, which one do you go by? Unique, link, click-through rate, or all? Unique CTR for sure. And then Justin said, the reason I ask is I am basically running many ad sets. You're welcome, Tay, at around $10, $25, and $50 per day per campaign. So I have more control and they work great, 2 to 3 ROAS right out of the bat, but then they die after like a week or two. That's exactly what Learning Limited does. Like your budget is spread way too thin in order to get the consistency that you're looking for. Then I duplicate them and start them all over. I wonder what would be the main issue for this instability. Been running same video for around 4 months. It's because it's what Diana just described. Like TikTok and Facebook need 50 conversions a week in order to continue to deliver the performance that you're looking for. So it's a budget allocation issue that is creating a scaling issue. And it's because the budget is spread too thin. So you need to figure out a way, and the strategy is broken down in the doc and in, the portal. You need to find out how to use one of the 5 scaling strategies so that your ads don't die so fast. So Justin, if you want to shoot a Loom and fire that over in the Loom request channel, we can hit on that. You're welcome. And then lastly, Mehdi asked, what to do when learning limited, duplicate and put more budget? Simple answer, yes. We can also have a look, Mehdi, as well at adjusting sort of the scaling setup, whether that's option 1, which is single ad scaling. That's where you started, you remember. And then going into ABO scaling, for example, and looking at anywhere between 3 to 5 times CPA for daily budget at the ad set level. So if I remember correctly, your target CPA is $50. I would duplicate those with an ABO scaling with 3 winning ads in phase 4 at 150 a day first. Make sure that works. Get my 10 conversions, increase budget by 20% every 2 days. So that's the short answer. Guys, amazing session today. I appreciate all of your questions. I appreciate you guys for hanging around for so long. We'll share the recording here really soon. And if you have any follow-up questions, just hit us up in Slack. And I'll catch you guys really soon. It was a pleasure.